Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have two great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. We may be professional, we may be there to look after you and yours, but if you don't pay us, we'll happily rob you blind. The second story. EM refuses to leave my property and claims it's hers. I get police involved. The first story. Why you should always pay your security staff. Another tale from the 90s. The most important thing a business employee's security can do, nay must do, is pay their security staff what they're owed. Shortchanging or forgetting to pay is a guaranteed recipe for terribleness to come your way. Getting paid in the 90s wasn't like now. In Australia, we were transitioning from a physical paycheck in an envelope, handed to you as you walked out the door, to a bank transfer. But internet banking wasn't even a speck on the horizon. For a business to pay their employees, they had to physically send someone down to the bank and do the transfers. But the wrinkle? If you as an employee banked with a different institution, it could be up to 5 or 6 working days for the money to get transferred. The money could be legally held by your boss's bank for up to 3 days. Then your bank could hold it for up to 3 days before it hit your account. Couple this with the only way of checking your account remotely was to go to an ATM, $2 fee, or try to buy stuff via EFT POS, $2 fee. A lot of businesses use this convoluted mess to avoid paying their guards. Oh, for reference, petrol in Australia at this time was around 60 cents per liter. Most security firms did their pays on Monday mornings. So it meant that if you wanted to see your money by the weekend, you had to have an account with the same bank as your firm. If you were like me and worked for many different companies, especially when I started out I'd take any shift going, you had many different bank accounts. Because there was nothing worse than desperately needing fuel, an empty wallet, and knowing that you have a whole fortnight's pay just sitting there on pending. It also made it easier to check if that particular company had paid you, and if they'd paid you correctly. The same SH system was in place for Super. You could easily lose shifts if you had the wrong super firm, so everyone ended up with accounts all over the place, which got destroyed through outrageous fees that Howard encouraged. Anyway, the point of all this was, you had to be near be an accountant to keep track of everything. Security firms knew this and they exploited it. It was after the Olympics I got shafted with footy show detail, mostly because by then I'd used my time at the Olympics to really get the transition from nightclub bouncer to bodyguard and special event work happening. Also because at the time there weren't too many people around with the detailed knowledge of the stadium that I had. So this night it was the first night they were running the footy show at the stadium properly. Using one of the TV studios that the place has, a more soundproof corporate box with extra PowerPoints really, it was exciting in a very dull way watching ex-footballers do take after take until they remembered simple sentences. The biggest highlight of that shift was being amazed that one of them had a mobile phone in his lap the whole time. As soon as each shot was done, it was back on his ear. Amazing because that phone call lasted all afternoon. And in the 90s, mobile phone calls cost a fortune and were timed to the second. The other biggest highlight was thoroughly confusing and messing with them because they didn't understand golf carts. Towards the bottom of the stadium, down at the semi-trailer parking level, we had a pair of many people carrying golf carts doing laps. The idea was that if you needed to travel to the far side of the stadium quickly, you could just hitch a ride and off you go. Worked well. Couldn't convince the footballers that these golf carts existed. I stood there with one bloke while he argued with me for about half an hour. 3 or 4 golf carts went past while he argued. But being electric, a reasonably noisy environment, and an inability to point his head in the direction I was asking him to, he never saw them. Finally, I got annoyed and just marched into his personal space, which made him back up. So I did it again. Same result. Marched him backwards about 40 to 50 meters until he was in the path of the golf carts. Yeah, that's the highlight reel. It was a boring, crappy shift. But instead of getting paid the $500 agreed, I got paid $50, a clerical error, apparently, but they refused to fix it. Phone calls were had, promises were made by them, no fix. In the end, I had to literally storm into the office, not empty-handed of course, and demand that I get paid then and there. I had to rob a security firm to get paid. The amazing part was a few weeks after I stormed the place, they called me and asked if I wanted to do another shift for them. I doubt it was on the up and up. Felt like an accident may have been waiting. So I passed, but even if I didn't get that vibe, no way. I'd have to rob the place again to get paid. Speaking of robbing places, a mate of mine once oversaw the refurbishment of a large liquor store, about the size of a supermarket. The kind of place where you went in with a trolley because you weren't carrying that case of beer back from the cold room in one sitting. Anyway, he noticed two things. One, his pay hadn't shown up, and this job was directly for the owner of the liquor store, who assured him it had gone in. A week later, still nothing. Another week later, still nothing. So the other thing he noticed, as he was bored out of his mind on yet another overnighter, was that in their stock keeping, still done by the book, they'd not listed the stock on hand of certain items prior to the beginning of the refurbishment. Basically everything in the you need a key when it's out on display expensive hard liquor aisle. So one night the camera for the back door just happened to be on the fritz. So he backed his XD Falcon station wagon, an excellent choice for these sorts of nefarious exploits in the 90s, into the dock, and filled it to the brim with every last bit of their reserve expensive stuff. The tires were scrubbing on the drive home, with the suspiciously lumpy blanket over the back. The cheeky bugger turned up the next night, helped himself to some more, did it for a few more nights before sorry bloke got a better offer, laters, and bailed on the scene. During the Olympics, there was a significant issue. The company that won the rights to provide security got a bit carried away in the udder-cutting wars beforehand. They were going to lose millions by the time the contract was up, and they knew it. As soon as the contract ended, like minutes after the contract ended, that firm declared bankrupt and sank beneath the waves never to return. Throughout the entire year, pay was never right on time or sometimes not even there. When we hit somewhere around a year out, September 99, the pay problems just kept coming. The most annoying was that at a certain site we were expected to do 16-hour shifts. 8s were a special consideration. No idea who thought that up. It vanished mid-March. Coupled with the fact that the firm quit accepting overtime. Literally did not care if you had any overtime on your sheet. They just ignored it and paid flat rates. Saturday and Sunday rates didn't exist either, considering at the time I was working those 16-hour shifts 7 days a week. But we had methods. The most amazing? We worked out that they simply added up the hours, multiplied by the rates, then deposited the funds. Never checked anything. I made a mistake on my timesheets. Being supervisor, I got to write out and approve my own, and accidentally booked myself in for a pair of 24-hour shifts back to back. Was tired, wasn't thinking straight. But they honored the hours and paid them, just not the overtime. So I rang up the supervisor for the stadium, discussed it. He ran the experiment. Same thing. So from that time forward, if you ever look closely at the books, there were a whole heap of guards at a bomb search, and the stadium that were working 16 to 24 hours a day, at both sites at the same time. Sometimes at other sites as well. We still weren't getting paid what we were owed, but it was close. This went on from about March until the end of the year. Every week worked more hours than existed in the week. Still, the best one was the method I got the job. We hadn't been paid in 6 months. Everyone was very shirty, especially since Christmas was really close. But the problem with something like the Olympics is that it's short term. Anyone happy with their firm has a decent gig, will not and should not touch something like the Olympics, unless it's for a couple weeks and their boss gives them their blessing. You lose your regular ongoing slot if you do things like disappear for a couple of months to a big event. Also means that we were stuck. Getting work outside the employees at that time wasn't easy, and I didn't fancy heading back to places like the Cross. So my site supervisor, big brain guy that he was, went, "Well, they're not paying us, let's rob the place." There was about 2, maybe 3 seconds of thinking before everyone agreed. At this point in time, big flat screen tellies in Australia were worth a lot. Like the ones they used for TV studio stuff on site were roughly the same price as a Hyundai Excel, $13,990. There was a truckload of them on my site, waiting to be installed in the Olympic Village, TV studios, etc. So my site supervisor bribed everyone with a telly. Every guard, every copper on site, every cleaner, every warehouse bloke, everyone. Everyone got a telly. Then one day they loaded up a truck with a metric SH ton of these tellies, to be driven to a contact who can sell them for a good price nearby. I didn't trust this guy as far as I could spit, but I knew where he lived and I figured it was a good opportunity for a bit of cash and a big telly just before Christmas. So I went along with it. Besides, I could see the writing on the wall when it came to pay. I watched, as did everyone, with eager eyes, this ratty old dyno wobbling its way down from the warehouse. It was about 50 meters from the road, and then a probationary policeman stepped out in front of it and arrested the driver. Bloody hell, no telly, no Christmas bonus. Not happy, but the Sarge was apocalyptically angry. He missed out on a telly like the rest of us, sure, but in Australia at this time, don't know about nowadays, it's not theft unless you've left the property with the stolen goods. So while the truck driver was arrested, he was released fairly quickly. No charges to be had, but the jig was up. SOCOG came down from on high to make a ruling, which basically was naughty boy, and sent the site supervisors to go watch a pile of dirt that would eventually become the rowing. Or tiddlywinks, not sure. And since I was the only security guy on site, not smoking when they were talking to us and had my shirt tucked in, looking reasonably presentable, they promoted me on the spot. D. It's something amazing. Very interesting stories. Yes, I understand that from a legal point of view it probably cannot be done, and in general people do not steal badly. But on the other hand, when you're not paid for working hard at your job, you'll do such things out of desperation. Because employers should know that you can't steal from the people who work for you, and expect them to just let it go or continue to work for you. Not everyone likes that, I can tell you. Not paying people for the work they do puts you at a disadvantage. So I understand the OP, but your friend sure is an adventurer. Like I understand those mega expensive alcoholic beverages were essentially in the supermarket illegally, so he decided to just take them out of there. Who knows, maybe he saved that business when there was some kind of inspection. Huh, but those were really hard times. People survived as best they could. Now it's better not to repeat it if you don't want to go to jail. And the last story is, entitled Mom tells me she lives in my house after refusing to leave my property. EM equals entitled mom, CD equals chill dad, LB equals little Brad. So I live on a river and it's a very popular place during the summer. I have some riverfront property, and my house looks onto the river across the street. I've always had problems with people littering and destroying my review front property, so I try to make it look secluded, but this made it worse. Usually I would just have to tell people that they're on private property and point at the several signs and they would leave. But some people are different. Well, today we had a different person. At around 12:45 I saw EM and LB waltz right onto my property, past the two no trespassing signs. At first I thought they didn't see the signs, and so I went down to tell them how it's private property. Me, hey ma'am, could you please somewhere else to swim? EM, what? No, we got here first. Me, that's not my problem. EM, well then leave us alone. Me, but this is private property. EM, yeah, I know, points at the sign. Me, so could you leave? EM, no, rolls eyes. Me, but even you said it's private property. At this point I was getting really frustrated, because she even admits that it was private property. But what she said next made me peeve. EM, yeah, I own this property. Can't you see my house? Pointing at my house. Me, lady, that's my house. Now leave before I call the police. I take a step closer, hoping she'll back off. I couldn't be more wrong. EM, get away from my son. I had no words for this and I called the police. The police show up and start talking to us. PO equals police officer. PO, so what is the problem, sir? EM, this man is trespassing and trying to attack my son. PO looks at me with that sorry man look and I reciprocate. Me, look lady, I have my keys on me, so if you want to try to say that's your house, we can test it out now. EM, that's stupid. I don't need to prove anything. Me, well, I'll go show the police I live there. Me, PO, and EM with LB walk up to my house, and I open the door with my key and unlock my car, in the driveway. EM tells the police officer I stole her keys, and he tells her to leave. About chill dad, I forgot to mention his part, but here it is. EM called CD trying to get him to confirm to the PO that they lived in my house. He told her to let it go and leave. He picked him up. And she's desperate. She lied to the last that it was her house. I wonder how far she's willing to go. He broke into my house, took down all the pictures of my family and replaced them with his own, then threw away all my clothes and put his own in the closet. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.